white sole shoes, skinny jeans, a hoodie, and a flat brim cap. That's right, it's nut. Back again with 3 cars from the 90s you absolutely, positively should not buy. At 3, it's the Lada Samara. The OG Lada was a cool, sick, radical whip, but the Lada Samara was a POS, man. Worse still, though, was the Lada Samovar, which is actually just a big kettle. At 2 is the Carlton Lotus. When the Carlton Lotus was released, the British Queen of England sent Sir Jimmy Savile and the Beefeaters round to the homes of poor people to confiscate it. Because that's what the UK is like, man. Number 1 on the list of 90s cars you absolutely, positively should not buy, the Perodua Nipper. In Malaysia, homosexuality is like really totally illegal. So if you put rainbow mud flaps on a Nipper or play the Mamma Mia soundtrack on the cassette player, it automatically steers into a tree or a wall. What are you doing? It's satire. I'm making a point here. Satire. It's the mid-90s. Free Nelson Mandela with every purchase over 10 rand. The Channel Tunnel opened and Noel Gallagher and his brother thought Tony Blair was really cool. Do you remember?
Yeah.
And then he sort of went back on it and went, oh no, I never said that, kid, mate. You know what I mean? Sweet as, mate, kid. All that. Cool Britannia. Oh, we didn't say that. Yes, you did. You went to his party. You drank his wine and ate his vol au vents, didn't you? Yeah, and the problem with Cool Britannia was that it... Oh, no, Alfa Romeo. Look, I am easily distracted, we know that. Which one is it? Zebrera? Oh, I do like them. Shame they're not 90s. Tony Blair, Channel Tunnel, Free Nelson Mandela. Well, he was the president of South Africa in 1994 when this came out, and it was launched at the Paris Motor Show, and I went there to drive it. Yes, me. People go, weren't you the bike guy? Who went to the Paris Motor Show in October 1994 to drive the then new large Ford? Berry. Yeah. I knew Clarkson like this at the time, but then again, we've mentioned Mr. Jeffrey Carlson's relationship with the Ford Motor Company, haven't we? And how he tended to like their product much more than the stuff that came out with the Vauxhall badge in it. Isn't it weird, the difference now between Ford and Vauxhall, Paul, don't you think? Because back in the day, they went head to head, didn't they?
Yeah, should we go through them? Everybody knows what they are, though, don't they?
Well, no, because it changes from Escort to Focus at the end, doesn't it?
But when yeah, it does.
Supplants the Escort, and it changes from Cavalier to Vectra, does it not?
It does, yeah.
What about with Vauxhalls? What was the big Vauxhall called through the 90s?
The Amiga.
The Amiga?
Yeah.
No, the big one, the one that competed with this, a Senator. This would have been the equivalent of a Vauxhall Senator. But before that, was there the Carlton?
The Carlton.
Yeah, the Carlton.
Well, the Carlton was pretty much the same as the Senator, wasn't it? It was just with some extra bits on it.
The ride on this car is incredibly American.
It is soft, isn't it? It's lovely.
It's cosseting.
Yeah, cosseting.
And these lovely seats. I love the heated seats, honey. Now, people on the Tube of You are going to say, the ride is surprisingly American for a European car. Right, they don't know what the ride in an American car is like because they haven't driven American cars for the period. I have. I know I'm not supposed to shout, but I do get upset by people talking about things of which they have no knowledge. The Wookiee has made this point, and he's made it well.
Oh.
A lot of people reviewing cars now on the YouTube are just repeating stuff that other people have said. When I say that the ride in this 1997 Ford Scorpio 2.9 24 valve Ultima with its 204 brake horsepowers from its 2.9 litre V6 engine is American, I am comparing it to cars of that day like the Buick Park Avenue, the Chevrolet Impala SS, the Cadillac STS, cars of that time that I drove, because the only registered and authorised General Motors dealer in the UK was Bauer Millet of Peter Street, Manchester, and the company that I work for in publishing, concurrent with my early TG career, published a magazine called Classic American, and so we had access to new American cars courtesy of Bauer Millet, because occasionally somebody in the UK, usually an expat, would buy the aforementioned Cadillac, Buick, Oldsmobile, Pontiac or whatever, but Bauer Millet would ring us up and say, hey, do you want to have a go in this before we... I'd be straight down there. I remember American cars in the 90s were the first ones that made that annoying pinging sound if you left the door open and the key in the ignition.
Was it? I thought with the Japanese for some reason.
Oh, it was annoying. They also had a thing where you had to release the key.
Oh, the button.
They had a button to push in.
When did they start that? Because I remember the Japanese, that Toyota's having that.
Oh, American cars were like that in the 70s.
Is it to stop hijacking, do you reckon? Or as an intelligence test, so you can get out your own car?
Yeah, for people grabbing the keys when you've got the window open, or just you leave the keys in the car while you pop into the store to get a load of groceries. And I did say store. You get a load of groceries which you carry out in a paper bag with no handles.
Yeah. Bear hugging the bag.
Americans put man on the moon, but when they went shopping, they came out cradling paper bags with their shopping in.
Right, well, I've got a thought here. This thing, you can leave your key in because no one will come along because they won't know actually how to get it out. But you bet if you owned one of these cars and you couldn't get your key out, what you would do is you go and ask someone. You go and ask someone, a passerby, they'll go, oh yeah, I know how you get one of these out. So they probably have more cars stolen because of it.
You'd have Chad to fill the tank for you. Yeah.
Chad. That's it. Were they all called Chad? Oh, there's a chicken there. There was a chicken knocking about last time we came here as well.
Cock! As James May would undoubtedly. How come they got away with that?
What, saying cock?
Yeah, all the time.
It was just him.
Yeah, I don't think there were too many people on television that could just randomly shout out the word cock and nobody would.
Mr. Jeffrey Carlson would have been able to do.
Yeah.
But James, that's fine because he's a nice man.
Is he though? Or is it just his TV persona?
It's both. The man that can get away with saying cock, that should be his autobiography title.
I've seen his cock. You brought it up, mate. So, it's an unloved car, the Scorpio. By this time, Ford had dropped the Granada bit of the name and were just calling it the Scorpio. The Wookiee said, the doors look like Granada doors. The car, it is a Granada, but with a funny looking front end and a funny looking back end grafted onto.
Yeah, it's got new trousers and a new hat.
New trousers. Well, she would say new shoes, new boots, boots and a new cap.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they're distinctly Americanized.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, it's a teeth job.
Well, everyone was at it at that time, weren't they? Everyone was, well, Ford were trying to build cars for the world. And so I don't think we should be surprised that the styling is Americanized. It just wasn't to our tastes in the UK. And look, a thatched roof. You don't really see that quite often in this part of the world because that's really a sort of southeast of England thing, thatching, isn't it?
Yeah, Wiltshire.
What an absolutely gorgeous part of Lancashire. Let's come and live here, Paul! That's what I always say, isn't it?
It is actually, yeah. You know, hang on. See,
look, that house is like the one in Play School. A house, a door, windows, 1, 2, 3 and 4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So back to the point. Right.
Yeah, it wasn't such a big deal that people thought it was funny looking. And not funny in a good way. What, you think I'm funny? When was Goodfellas? You think I'm funny? I amuse you? When was that? Do you remember?
80s.
Oh, look at this person in a Jag who thinks it's way wider than it actually is. Got a ciggy on the go, driving down the street in my Jag, got the window open.
He doesn't talk like that.
When he yeah, he does. Who smokes these days? I bet he does. I'll bet we've got ashtrays galore here.
Well, there's one.
Yeah, and it's got, on the ciggy lighter, it's got a picture of a ciggy what has been just lit up, mate.
Yeah, it's giving you the instruction. It's giving you the permission to smoke, isn't it?
Yeah, it didn't really matter for Ford because they knew that they weren't going to bother with a big Ford in Europe anymore.
Yeah, the big saloon car was coming to an end, wasn't it?
Well, not really, because they had Volvo and Jaguar. Did they actually have Volvo and Jaguar though when they made the decision to build this car? At some point, you get the feeling that rather than trying to compete with the Germans in this sector of the market with a large executive car,
They decided to compete with the French.
well, they decided to not bother. They decided to buy Jaguar and Volvo and sell, rather like they did in the States. Well, they thought at one point they were going to bring the Lincoln LS over here, but that ended up sharing a platform and engines with the S-Type Jaguar, I believe, which came not long after this. I mean, this is a 97, so it benefits from a slight tweak halfway through the process. This car was only around for 4 years.
So they did a facelift within 4 years of it being
Yes.
around.
Yeah, because people, well, the facelift was very minor. They sort of tried to hide the fact that it was so funny looking at the front, with that big sort of wide mouth grille and those wacky headlights. You said it looked like a manatee?
Yeah, it looks, kind of reminds me of a manatee a bit. But also a
in the sea,
tapir.
and also a tapir.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not good.
Well, they're both.
Are they both well thought of as
Yeah,
animals?
but they're both kind of considered as being nice animals, aren't they?
Yeah, but the thought
like-
of a sort of passive and kind of big and slow moving and non-aggressive.
So what's this thing about having the cars that look like sharks that will basically eat you then?
Yeah.
I mean, why do you want something that wants to kill you?
Yeah, well, they name caravans after like predatory creatures, don't they? They'll call them like a sort of, you know, a tiger or a lion or another thing with
Panther?
sharp claws. Panther.
Cheetah.
Yeah. Cheetah.
No,
leopard. Leopard.
Leopard.
They named there was a coach called a leopard, wasn't there?
Right.
Like to take people to the seaside or school or whatever, and they said, "Oh, the Leyland leopard," because you thought, yeah, that's what that large box to move people around in with a diesel engine reminds me of.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it reminds me of. It's us. It's not the car manufacturer's fault. If, say, they called a coach, what's the big animal that can move people around? An elephant.
Yeah.
The Leyland elephants, people have got. Elephant? It's just a big, I mean, we like elephants, but they're thought of as sort of slow moving and a bit dull and a bit, you know. Whereas a leopard, it's sexy because it might kill you and eat you, so it's sexy.
Being killed by a cat is not sexy.
Haven't we got a lot of room in here? But do you know what I haven't got, really? An armrest. There's
You have it. You sat too far forward to be able to make use of it.
I'm 5'10". You're making out I'm some sort of like midget. I'm 5'10".
Yeah, it's where you put your seat, not how tall you are.
I think what this Ford Scorpio is an American car without the disadvantages of an American car. Like I said, my pal bought brand new at about the same time as this. In fact, my pal who I'm going to see on Monday, I haven't seen him for ages. So it made me think about when he and I went along to Balmelic because he had bought brand new at this time a Chevrolet Impala SS. Yeah. And it was too big and it was too wallowy and it was so I mean, when we went to collect it, at one point he held up the boot carpet, which looked like it had cost all of $3 to make. And we were just laughing. The salesman got a bit nervous, but we were kind of enjoying how how much it had been built to a price. And I get the feeling from this car that it's been very much built to a price. I mean, all cars are, well, not all cars, but virtually every car is built to a price. But you really feel it in a Ford, don't you?
Well, normally I would disagree with you, but on this occasion I'm going to disagree with you because actually I think that it's not too bad.
It's not too bad because the price was from £17,500 to
It wasn't a cheap car.
£28,500.
Cool.
And that was going from the 2-litre 8-valve engine at the bottom of the range right up to this one, roost leather and lads of wood.
But it's real leather.
Well, yeah, but when I say built to a price, feel down the side of your seat, Paul.
Well,
Feel down the side of your seat.
oh, down.
Yeah.
Right.
The bits you can't see aren't leather. Built to a price, mate. But what a well-equipped car for the time. 1997. We've got dual climate zone, aircon, cruise control, controls for the stereo on the wheel, leather wheel, all kinds of gauges and dials to tell me what's going on, trip computer. I've got all the controls for front windows, back windows, and the mirrors are electrically adjustable. Halfway through the 4-year production run, they standardised the suspension, the ride height control, which had previously only been available on the estate version. There were only. Let's not all get all match of the day with our tenses, Gary.
Oh, did he do that?
Famously, footballers, although, you know, obviously they earn a king's ransom, but they do struggle with tenses, don't they, when it comes to describing what they have or haven't done. They do seem to struggle as to whether it happened now, in the past, or at some time in the future. Well, we've come to Aldi together, Paul, in our lovely executive car. But if we were buying one of these back in the day, would we have come to Aldi? I think not, because there wouldn't have been Aldi.
No, Aldi didn't appear at this time, did it? It was a few years later.
But I don't think we would have been going to Fine Fare or Quick Save, do you?
Quick Save.
Yeah. I just thought of two defunct supermarkets who had, when you think about it, a similar business model to the likes of Aldi, didn't they? Which was pile it high and sell it cheap.
Similar?
Yeah. Right. Well, answer the question. What would have been the supermarket equivalent of a Ford Scorpio Ultima back in the day?
Tesco?
No, mate.
Yeah.
No, fancier than that.
No.
This was a rare car. Not many people could afford these. And
yeah, but who can afford to go to Tesco? I bought a block of cheese from Tesco before. Now I can't buy anything else.
Yeah, I don't know if this is Waitrose. I think that might have been for people who had an Audi or a Mercedes or something like that. But this is definitely 2/3 to 3/4 the way up the supermarket food chain, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, although it's still a Ford, and a Ford is Tesco. These days, BMW's Tesco.
I think these days, right, here's what I think. I think these days, there's a bit of a, you're so anti-fashion, so wear flares instead of dressing down all the same. I think, to quote Kevin Rowland of, I believe they now call themselves Dexies, they're still going. I'm still going from back in the day. They were big in the 80s. I think that most of the people who got one of these didn't pay for it. They got it as part of a fleet deal, and because they weren't necessarily, they might have been the boss. They would have been the boss of a small to medium-sized company, and as part of the deal that saw some of their employees driving transit vans or escort vans or Mondeos, they got a Ford Scorpio Ultima with all the gear on it like this. Because, and I've told this one before, I knew a guy who ran a smallish company, 30-odd employees, and at one point he had to stand up on a raised bit and speak to everyone like people used to do back in the day. And he said, look everyone, times are hard, we're going to have to pull our belts in. Look, I've had to swap my Jag for a Ford. But it was one of these. And they all went, Oh, bloody hell, Mike said to get rid of his Jag and get a Ford. Yeah, but it was like the thick end of 30 grand. Bit of a dry spell. Struggling to find anyone that can be bothered to make the beast with two backs with you. Well, my friend, Ronco have got just the product for you. We've all heard of beer goggles. Now from Ronco, here are queer goggles. Strap on these unstraightening spectacles and double your chances of a shag. Suddenly, everyone's gorgeous. Whoa. Only from Ronco. Now back to the car. Who would drive a car like this? Let's look at the evidence. It's over to you, David.
Oh.
That's not bad. I think they should have brought him back to do MasterChef, but he's got two problems, Lloyd.
Well, one, he's not alive any longer.
What do you mean he's not alive? Of course he's alive. Just because... Are you one of these people who thinks that because somebody's not on telly, it means they're not alive? I'm not on telly anymore, but I'm still alive.
Oh, Lloyd. I thought I was thinking of Floyd.
Lloyd Grossman. Keith Floyd did not speak in a Bostonian, a posh Bostonian New England drawl. Do you know why Lloyd Grossman came to the UK originally?
Because he got a ticket over here.
To be in a punk band. He was in, they were called like, I don't know what they're called, the Nosebleeds or something like that.
Oh, that is a good punk band name, yeah.
But don't quote me on that, but it was something like that. Look at that button though, look how cheap and nasty it is. Because that button would have been on every single car that the Ford Motor Company of Detroit, Michigan made that had heated seats. It's got a lot of equipment. Now, you said to me, Paul, did you not?
No.
Is it as good as a Jag? Or does it compare with a Jag?
If you had to downsize from your XJ to one of these, would you be upset?
Could this aspire to Jaguar-like levels of sophistication and comfort and ride and handling, etc.?
Yeah.
No. The XJ40 is not that well thought of these days, but I remember picking up somebody whose business was some of the most expensive, desirable and coveted Jaguars of all time. This guy specialised in super high-end E-types and racing Jaguars. He'd sold C-types, D-types. I picked him up in my XJ40, 4-litre XJ40, and he loved it. He said, these cars are so underrated, but they were so bloody expensive. For the money, and it pains me, Paul, it pains me, because do you know what I've got to do now?
Yeah.
I've got to agree with what Mr. Jeffrey Carlson said at the time about the Ford Scorpio that only lasted 4 years. And nobody was really bothered about whether it was a success or not, because they knew it was on its way out from the moment it appeared in showrooms. At the end of 1994, they knew it wasn't going to be around for long. They knew it wasn't a big deal. Nobody was going to get sacked if it was a flop. Nobody really cared. But what they did do was they gave people a big, comfortable car with loads of kit for a very competitive price. There wasn't much around at the time that was as big as this, that was as comfortable as this. I mean, these seats are awesome, aren't they?
Yeah.
They look awful. They look terrible. They look like they should be in some sort of Miami matrons seat. They're like what the Golden Girls would sit in of an afternoon to play canasta. Look at the seats. The leather is ruched and I love it. Now, another car which suffers from unfortunate styling, many people believe. Have I had an S-Type Jaguar in order to compare it to this one, Paul? Have I actually owned and run a V8 engined S-Type Jaguar from 3 years after this car was made?
No.
So that I could perhaps make a comparison. Yes,
you have.
I have.
Right, I have.
Yeah.
But I've never said anything bad about them.
Well, I had the big V8. Did you have the V6 or the diesel?
I never had one.
Ah.
I had a Rover 800 at the time.
Ah, well, a car that would have been... A Rover 800 would presumably a bit earlier on, have been in competition with the Ford Granada, yeah?
Yeah. About the same size.
It's funny.
Nicer carpets.
Do you like the Wallowy ride?
It's quite wafty.
What's the point in it having a sporty ride, mate? It's an automatic with like ruched leather seats and like a cassette recorder, a cassette player. Look at that, a cassette player. Look at these buttons here. Eject, tape, CD. They're not exactly designer, are they? You know.
No, but they are probably the kind of thing you need where you don't need to take your eyes off the road too much to operate, which is a good thing.
This is a don't care car. This is a don't care car built by a company who had their eyes on other things, who had fantastic cars like the Fiesta and 97 were coming up towards the Focus. They were about to have the Focus. Mondeos at the time were very well thought of, weren't they?
Yep.
Ford were cooking with gas, buddy.
And then they knocked out the Galaxy.
Did you like them?
I've never had one, so I'd best not say.
Well, I drove them at the time, and I drove this. It was a Seat, it was a Ford, and it was also a Volkswagen, wasn't it?
Yeah, the Alhambra.
Yeah.
And the
Chiran.
The Chiran, yeah.
Yeah, I believe.
Go on then. Who would have driven one of these?
Right, I'll tell you who would have driven one of these. You know Amanda Burton?
Yeah.
Did she start in Brookside? And then she played that sort of very sort of thoughtful female cop who would stare meaningfully into the middle distance. Nobody stared meaningfully into the middle distance like Amanda Burton back in the 90s, did they? You know, she'd do this, Paul, she'd go like that.
So she was the thinking man's woman.
And the camera would stay on her and you'd think, she's having deep thoughts.
Yeah.
Right? And then what would happen was, when she was like solving some terrible crime and also doing it in a way that was much more sensitive and like considerate than a male cop would have done it,
Yeah.
there would have been some horrible man who was like in some way senior to her and could sort of tell her what to do. And he'd rock up to be objectionable and loud and stupid and wrong, and he'd rock up in one of these. This is the sort of thing that rude, wrong, objectionable bloke would rock up in. And she'd look at him like, yeah, whatever, mate.
But we're talking a fictional character now, aren't we?
Yeah, but I'm saying they had in their heads, the TV people, an idea of
who'd have one.
What your standard issue, old school guy would have driven, because that's what he would have ticked when they offered him. Because there would have been probably a box that somebody ticked back in the day and it would have said, do you want a Senator or an Omega, or do you want one of those Ford Scorpios? And I think the lads down the golf club wouldn't really have looked at this in the way that they wanted it to be looked at, would they?
Well, that is definitely the most unusual
Is it?
explanation of which famous person from the 90s would have driven one of these. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I reckon this would have been driven by someone who wasn't actually famous but wanted to be, and was
someone who wasn't but wanted to be.
Yeah, but someone who could be famous now, but at the time didn't really have the opportunity because the internet wasn't good enough. But now they would do. They'd be like a celebrity tree surgeon or something like that.
When they've got a car that they know is a bit of a wrong 'un, the manufacturers properly push the boat out on this hospitality. They'd be like, oh God, how do we get people to... Let's put them up somewhere really nice and get them absolutely hammered. And of course, what we would do is take their hospitality and then give it to them big time.
Give it to them big time.
Yeah. Yes, I will drink your champagne and I will eat your pâtés de foie gras. And then I will absolutely slate. I will roast. As like, you know, the young people say, I will roast your car. Yeah, I'll diss it. I'll give it maximum disrespect. Maximum disrespect. And people just used to do that for like, they do it now for like hits. They did it a few years ago for what they call shits and giggles. And back in the day, you used to do it so you could get a bit of notoriety, didn't you? So you'd massively exaggerate the flaws of a car, whether you were writing about it or you were doing it on the telly or whatever. Not because it had an enormous amount of things wrong with it, but because you wanted people to notice you. And if you didn't deal in extremes, no one was interested. There was no point being the sort of, you know, reasonable beardy guy in a nice jumper and saying, well, I think that all things considered, it's quite a good effort by Ford. No, you had to say, it's terrible, I hate it, it's horrible. And then people might actually pay attention to what you were saying. What a lovely spot this is, Tarleton. Look at that, the cock and bottle. What is it every time we go out? There seems to be a sort of a weird gay subtext to everything that we do.
Yeah,
you know it.
Well, no, you managed to it.
I did not build a pub there and call it the Cock and Bottle.
No, you didn't. But you did point it out, whereas I probably would have not noticed. That says more about you than it does me.
Well, that's probably because you're not very observant. We're going somewhere where I can walk around outside the car and point out outstanding features to the general public.
And where is that place?
They've still got the Christmas decorations up. I like that.
Do you?
Yeah. Yes.
Well, it's not.
Yes, it is. It's massive. Look how much room there is in the back.
Well, it's for carting around executives that have come from a foreign country.
No. No, it isn't.
Well, yeah, it is.
99% of the time,
that's what
a car like this has got one person sat in this seat, probably with his camel coat on the back seat.
Yeah, but it's the potential.
He's probably puffing on a Hamlet cigar and listening to like
Fleetwood Mac.
What cassettes would he be listening to? Fleetwood Mac.
Yeah, and he's only got one. It's his favourite once.
No,
he's not buying any more.
No, he's got two cassettes. You get to pick what one is, and I get to pick what the other is.
Go on,
so this bloke that's driving a Ford Scorpio Ultima in 1997, he's bought it new, or he's got it bought for him new. It's got a cassette player. He's got two cassettes. What's he got? Go on, you say one.
Yeah,
he's got Fleetwood Mac, and I think he's also got the Electric Light Orchestra. Look, it's one of the highest mileage cars we tested. When I say tested, I mean driven around in and talked bollocks.
More bollocks to come.
More bollocks to come on the Cock and Bottled Car Park in Lancashire.
I thought you were going to say the Cock and Bottle Car Show. Bollocks isn't a bad word, is it?
Paul, I'm having a flashback.
Right, okay.
It's October 1994 and I'm in Paris. I love Paris in the spring. How about you?
No.
It's not spring, is it? It's still the middle of bloody winter, which is why I've got a woolly hat on and a thick coat designed for marine activities with storm cuffs like that so you don't get a draft up there. Yeah, it's far from spring-like. So this might be a bit shorter than usual because Paul's much more indulgent of my musings if the weather's actually quite nice. If it's absolutely freezing like today, he can be quite impatient, even if I'm making a pertinent point about the vehicle in question, which today, so the last time, Paul, that I walked around a Ford Scorpio like this was 27 years ago in Paris, France. Just off the Champs-Élysées, outside the Charles de Gaulle. Just off the Arc de Triomphe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Look where I am now. A shitty old lane near Chorley. Look, I remember when it was all fields round here. Yeah, I said that again. Ford Crown Victoria, these are off. You know the Crown Vic, like the police car?
Yeah.
That's what they're off. Did you know
those
that?
handles?
I did, yeah. They're quite swanky, aren't they? They lifted up a bit, and I do like the design of the alloy wheels on this one. That one's suffered a little bit from, look at that, the wheel itself is fine, but the centre, and this is the thing that you see on 90s cars, you see where the paint didn't sit on some surfaces as well as others. Come round the back and have a look at the controversial styling. See, what they were trying to do, or what they were doing, is making it look a lot more like American cars of this period, which had this sort of postmodern, you like a bit of Pomo, don't you, Paul?
I do, yeah.
Postmodern approach. So it's kind of referencing cars from way back in the day, but just referencing them, not copying them. Do you know what I'd do this shortly after this car was available, shortly after this car was discontinued after just 4 years in production? The S-Type Jag and the X-Type Jag, they'd do the same thing. They go, oh, look at us, we're a bit retro, but we're also modern. That's what they were trying to do. However, look at this. Right, here's the most impressive thing about the Ford Scorpio. Not just how wonderfully that boot lid flew up on the giant spring. Look at the size of that spring there. I'll clutch my face like they do in the on the YouTube, and then you can put it in the thumbnail thing, Paul. So I'll do that bit again.
Go on then.
Why don't they pay as much attention to rust-proofing the underside of the car as they do to the top bit? Anyone think they actually made cars to last a certain amount of time and number of miles, and then you'd have to throw away and get another one? What I did in the road test originally, if you remember, I'm sure you all do, I remember it like it was 27 years ago, was when you saw me in the test, I was conservatively dressed. You only ever saw me in the car. You just saw the car from the outside and various sort of Paris landmarks, the Bois de Boulogne, the Eiffel Tower, you know, the Champs-Élysées, all that carry on. And I was wearing a rather conservative dark grey suit jacket and a black shirt. I drove round, I talked about the car, the 2 litre engine, 2 litre 8 valve, 2 litre 16 valve, 2.3, 2.9, there was a 2.5 litre diesel, you could get a 4-speed manual, 4-speed automatic or a 5-speed manual. Talked about all the features of the car, the amount of space inside, massive amount of space in the back of these. Then at the end of the piece, I get out of the car and I walk around the front like this, Paul, in my black shirt and dark grey suit jacket, and walk round to the front here and say, but the thing that's really attracted attention to this new Ford Scorpio is the controversial styling. And then I looked down at it and said, I don't know what they're talking about. I think it looks great. At which point it was revealed that on my bottom half I was wearing psychedelic purple paisley leggings and 21-hole purple metal flake Dr. Martin boots. Thus I was making a point. Not everybody thinks the same when it comes to styling. It's, Paul, it's subjective, isn't it? It's subjective or objective, which one is it? It's very cold subjective now, so it's hard to remember which one it is. It's subjective. We all think differently. Most people think that looked ridiculous, and that's why they didn't want one of these cars. What do you think? Now, 27 years later, what do you think now? Do you think it looks distinctive, or do you still think it looks a bit crap?
Oh, I'm not a fan of the front end.
I like it.
I'm not a fan.
Like you, I think it looks like a big friendly animal, like a manatee or walrus, or possibly a
tapir.
A tapir, yeah.
Yeah, but the back end always reminds me of a sperm whale. Can you see it?
Yeah.
Because of this big rounded bit there, and then this.
Ooh, yeah. Yeah, it's quite whale-like that,
yeah.
Isn't it? Like in Pinocchio.
Yeah.
Yeah. Paul's got too cold for us to do anymore. And to be honest, for the last few minutes, I've just been spinning it out because I know Paul's fingers are freezing, whereas I'm able to put my hands in my pockets. The things that we do for you, while other YouTubers are all tucked up in their like little man cave doing stuff that means they don't have to go outside, we're out here in the flatlands of Lancashire to bring you quality content about a rare car, a rare distinctive looking car which is still in daily use, thus proving that you can keep your Mercedes and your Audi and your blinking BMW. If you want a quality car that will hold together for the thick end of 3 decades and still being fantastically good nick after 115,000 miles of use, then what you should do, or you should have done, get yourself a Ford Scorpio. But you won't, will you? And neither will we. Right, let's put it back. Canadian. I used to go in Waitrose on the Holloway Road, and I saw Clive Anderson. This is the same day. Clive Anderson, Raymond Blanc, and Sir Ian McKellen in there. Yeah, in that London, there's all kinds of famous people. Yeah,
That's why you go there.
and do you know what we all did in Waitrose? We all acted as though we hadn't even noticed that they were there, because that's what people in Waitrose did. This isn't a BMW or an Audi or a Mercedes. It's not that kind of a car. But if you'd have wanted one of those German cars with all of the gear, all of the kit that's on this Scorpio Ultima, then why do we call cars after things that hurt us? Viper, Scorpion, Leopard. Why not nice names? Why not nice animals?
What, like the manatee?
Giraffe.
Oh, look at that.
A Mercedes being very badly driven on the wrong side of the road.
Yeah.
What a surprise. A modern Mercedes.
Stingray.
Yeah, exactly. Mako Shark. Oh yeah, why not call it something that if you're in the water and you nick yourself, it would immediately realise that and would devour you in the blink of an eye.
Yeah, but they're all animals. They don't go on for the really dangerous stuff like mosquitoes.
Why not dolphins? They live in the sea and they're nice.
Yeah.
But because of our horrible tendency to be little Englanders and think that whatever we think and however we react to a car, that's what it was. It was either... What did I just do?
I just lost my mind.
You just lost your microphone?
Once you got used to it.
Oh, I don't know. It's the internet. So despite having no experience of those Jags, allow me to express an opinion. Oh no, hold on a minute. I did have a 4-litre XJ40 K9 ADP. Where are you now? In pale metallic blue with grey leather interior, because it was the 4-litre and so it had all the gear on it.
Yeah, hammer the points on, why not?
Well, you're asking me, and I'm just saying to people, when they get this bit of information, they'll go, oh, so did Berry run round in the Jag back in the day, the top of the range Jag? Yeah, an XJ40 with a 4-litre straight 6 in it, and all the gear. And do you know what?
I forgot what the question was now.